What's up? Gary, maybe you can look up and give me a discerning look. He's supposed to be.
He's just breathing at me. Oh!
Go ahead. Hey, welcome to the Calling All Heroes Comics Podcast. As you can see, we are crunched in here pretty tight for your amusement.
We are.
I'm George, and I'm joined by Gary.
Hey.
Tim.
How's it going?
Austin.
Yo.
Donnie.
Hey.
And Walls.
Hey.
And we are here, six members strong, firing on all 6 cylinders.
Right.
Glad to have you guys back. Donnie was here last week. He's joining us once again. Austin, in and out, but mostly in now. Am I right?
Mostly in, yes.
Yeah.
All right, we got quite a few questions, and there's already been some debate. So if I
can't
pan
believe
around
it.
here,
We're
you
fired
see
up.
how much stuff's
Fired
been
up.
destroyed. It was like the Hulk and thing. We're already here.
Yeah.
So
Crazy.
we're gonna
Pandemonium. Pandemonium.
Pandemonium.
When I got here, they were at it.
Monster truck action.
Love the shirt.
Thanks. You're on.
Monster truck action. All right, I was looking around and everybody's. I don't want to say uncomfortably close, but it's kind of. Oh well.
You can't see this little. They can't see this little trash can fire we got here going.
What do you got there, Walls? What are you wearing?
Flannel. Flannel.
These were 11 in the 80s or 90s.
That's the Scott Pilgrim.
It's warm.
These are the Target
Duluth-
sweatpants, followed by
Duluth
the People of Walmart sweatshirt I got for $4.99. Anyway,
On sale.
it was Walmart doesn't do sales. It was a rollback.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's try to.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay. Anyway, we
Lost
have a
my
whole
hat.
bunch of questions this week, and we'll jump right into some of those. Like I said here at the beginning, we had a little bit of debate, so maybe we'll jump right into that. Let's get a few things out of the way first.
Also,
if
we're
that's
not
cool.
answering any of the other questions.
I'll start with a question.
Okay.
Who's Tom Holland?
All right.
I already answered.
For those of us who
We
are
gotta-
uninformed, Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man to ever
Yeah.
portray
He's the
live-action
newest
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
You asked me who he was, and I told you who he was.
Nice.
So,
Good times.
behind the scenes. So, Tom Holland. For Gary and the 7 other people out there that don't know who he is.
cold.
Venom is making, they're making a Venom movie with Tom Hardy.
I know
the
Venom
movie's,
is.
okay, and the movie's coming out from Fox. Well, Fox just recently was purchased by Disney, and I guess now the rumor mill is that Tom Holland, who played Spider-Man in Spider-Man Homecoming and will be Spider-Man in the Infinity Wars,
Okay.
is
The current Spider-Man.
yes, and I agree, the best Spider-Man
Yeah,
is
the
going
young-
to
I
be
think
jumping
we're all
over
agreeing
to be in that movie. Donnie, I know you're a huge fan of the movies as well as the characters. Did you hear any kind of confirmation on that, or is it just a
Last
rumor?
I heard, it's just a rumor, because I saw it from the website comicbook.com, which, funny enough, I don't trust for any rumors because they're usually wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
To the point that I think they make it up.
Yeah.
Like a clickbait kind of thing.
Well, it sort of sounded made up to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean,
You know, when I first heard it, I was like, well, that sounds like it would make sense, but
Right.
it sounds like somebody would say, oh,
'Cause-
let's throw this out there.
Right.
because the Venom movies it's made by Sony because Marvel has like the deal with Sony now.
Oh, that's right. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. It wasn't
yeah.
Fox. It was Sony.
Yeah, it's Sony. So they have the deal with Sony now where they can use Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They've had that going on for a few years now. So it would be cool to have Spider-Man, Tom Holland in the Venom movie. It'd be awesome. It would make sense because you can't have Venom without Spider-Man.
Right.
But on the other hand,
Literally.
I mean, it is cool because I do know with the Venom movie they're basing it very heavily off of Lethal Protector, where he's off on his own in San Francisco doing his own thing, and I'm like, that's cool too. That was a really cool run back in the '90s. So I mean, either way, I think it'll be cool. It's one of those movies that I'm not really going to be able to give you like my full thoughts on until it actually comes out and I actually see a trailer for it.
Oh, sure. Well,
Because
the Lethal
it
Protector
could just,
thing. I
it
mean,
could just go either way.
yeah. When I hear Lethal Protector is what they're basing on, like if we had the budget right now, I would have a guy like kind of walk on here with one of those cupped trumpets and go. Like, no, I want to see Eddie Brock come in,
Yeah.
destroy stuff. Like maybe show the arc of him becoming a villain.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway.
I mean, it's one of those movies that can go either way. Like,
It's not in production or anything.
no, it's in
It's
production.
in
Yeah.
pre-production.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
I think they're already filming.
I think there's a high chance of it happening. You know, the way that they do, especially when they have non-disclosures nowadays, like Mark Ruffalo likes to tease a lot every time he does an interview about anything Avengers related and make jokes and jabs towards things, but they can't ever say. About a month ago, there was an Instagram photo that Tom Hardy had posted of him and Tom Holland. Stayed up for like 2 days and then came right down real fast.
Right.
Because I know that, you know, they're still in post-production with Infinity War, and they're in pre-production for Infinity War Part 2 and some of the other films. So I think that there would be a chance that maybe it's just literally nothing but a cameo appearance.
Right, sure.
Which is enough to kind of satisfy the appetite of people while still keeping the attention focused on Venom and letting you know that there is more to come.
Well, even a cameo would help make sense, I guess, of the story.
Continuity, just to establish it.
Yeah.
Well,
Because-
and Civil War was, I mean, from everything that I read, Civil War was basically in the can when they got the rights to Spider-Man.
Pretty
That's
much,
the
yeah.
thing.
And
Yeah,
to come
they
back
last
and make,
second.
I mean, he wasn't just there for a second. I mean, it was an integral part of that movie.
Right.
And so what I'm reading from a number of different sites of various levels of reliability is that the Fantastic Four are going to be rolling in, if not in Infinity War, in the second Infinity
Second
War.
part.
And see, that's when I would bring the trumpet in.
But
Oh, you're killing! You hearing this? I mean, we're going to argue here in a minute about the cartoons, but
Well, hit him. All right, so let's really get this thing
All right,
rolling.
guys, just warm yourselves by the imaginary fire. It's
That's
all
why,
right.
that's why I cleared all the nice stuff
Yeah,
off the table.
everything's
It's
out of the
gonna
way.
be on here in a second.
Somebody threw a chair in the ring.
What's funny about this too is that when there's 3 or 4 of us, we're all spaced far enough
Yeah.
apart, and then
Yeah.
the conversation's very like, you know, I'd
How's it
say
going
fairly
down there?
calm, yeah. And now that we're all crunched
Yeah.
in like sardines, it's
Yeah.
going to be time to
and I'm
do a
going to
fist
because the
fight.
Royal
Yeah.
Rumble's on Sunday, so
Oh,
I'm ready for
dude.
some bodies. to
Tim
fly.
has his hand in my back pocket.
You know what I am
Took
looking
his wallet.
You know
I
what
think
I
he took his wallet.
You know what I am looking forward to with the Venom movie though? It's gonna have Carnage in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm
Finally
saying.
gonna have Carnage in a movie.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see who they're gonna get to play that.
I wanted to be the creepy little kid from Gotham. Because it needs to be a redhead, and I'm telling you right now, dude, that would be
Yeah.
something
You know
fierce.
who would be
Yeah.
perfect as Carnage? Jackie Earl Haley. Played Rorschach in Watchmen.
Yes, also.
Yeah.
Hell
Oh, that
yeah.
was good.
Hell yeah.
I'm really excited and also terrified to hear Tom Hardy's voice as Venom.
Yeah,
What if he
As long
sounds
as it
exactly
doesn't sound like
Bane?
That's what I was
Bane.
going to say.
What if he
Yeah.
sounds exactly like
If
Bane?
he gets a power struggle with the symbiote, he's like, "You think this gives you power over me?"
they'll definitely figure something out. There was a question I'd like to jump to
happened
before
to
the
my suit?
melee starts, and that is that, and I'm probably directed more towards you guys being Gary Walls and Tim, than
The
than
older
you
guys?
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, you guys
Is that
you
what you're
guys
trying to
kind of
say?
lived through the 80s and 90s of independent comic books.
Kinda.
Somebody had asked, is Image? They felt that Image was the best independent publisher. I think that'd be hard to argue.
Yeah.
Were there other ones that you guys?
What's that?
Image being the best independent publisher?
No way.
Really?
No way.
Okay.
I would say the one we're not allowed to talk about is
It's
the
Dark Horse.
Yeah.
By far. I
Today.
mean, you guys are big Star Wars fans. Before
Of
Marvel
course.
got a hold of it.
Yeah,
That's
Dark
what
Horse.
brought all this
Well,
Well,
that's
to
where Dark
clarify
Horse
though,
came
I'm
in.
not saying
Yeah.
I'm not saying of all time. I'm
Yeah.
saying current in the current
Right
climate.
now.
okay.
Is
Right
Image
now.
the best? And I mean, I think there's an argument that that's true. But the question would be: do you guys know of any like independent companies that were out during the 80s and 90s and may be defunct
Sure.
at this
Yes.
point, but some that you would point
Yeah.
out or bring up?
Rebel. Rebel Studios.
Faust,
Faust.
Yeah.
Tim Vision.
All the Fantagraphics.
Not for kids.
All the Fantagraphics
Definitely
stuff
not for
that,
kids.
that Corbin put out.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed those. Rich tried to have his own company, Fantagraphics, for a long period of time. He put out his Den stories, and he would also get other artists that were undergrounds artists and folks that he was really
Love
big
and Rockets,
fan
I
of.
think, was through Fantagraphics.
But
Kitchen Sink.
But yeah,
Dude.
yeah. But I love Fantagraphics stuff.
Yeah.
Rich, he said actually to print your own comic book or to do that, he said it was extremely expensive for him to do that.
Sure.
And that's why he stopped doing it, and of course was lured in. At that point in time, he was starting to become a legend, and that's when he was lured back into the the big guns again. Like he did stuff for Marvel and he did stuff for DC and that. But beforehand, when he was printing himself, he said it was not cost effective to do it.
Yeah.
I had a subscription.
Makes
You could
sense.
actually send. I sent
Yeah.
money to his house in Kansas City, and was getting a regular subscription to a Den book, and that was the end of that.
I remember when we were
Just
first
couldn't
talking.
do it anymore.
You would tell me that like sometimes like you got to print 3,000 copies of a book or 2,500 copies of a book, and on a completely unproven commodity that's not supported by a TV show or a, a property of any kind. And
Well, he was doing it with his family too. It's like, can you imagine? You got your wife and your daughter involved, like you're packaging stuff and sending it. I mean, it's pretty rough. I mean,
you guys remember that movie Chasing Amy, the Kevin Smith movie, where it starts and ends in the comic book store? And I remember the one scene with, and I forget her name, but Joey Lauren Adams' character, where she's sitting there and they were saying, "Oh yeah, it's the first Friday of the month," and she's sitting there with all her girlfriends and they're actually packing her comics to be shipped out to all the shops and stuff.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
I remember signing limited editions of the Highborn. We'll talk about some other time on the coffee table.
Yeah.
You know, and you had, I think 500 copies of it and stuff. Getting back to that, Now, which put Now in first, which put out Nexus, which is something I read.
yeah.
Now,
Pacific Comics, which
Pacific, I was
published
gonna
the
say
first
Pacific,
Mr. Monster.
Fantagraphics.
Yeah, Fantagraphics. I mean, there's a lot of them. Today, Albatross that put out Eric Powell. Goon goes through Dark Horse, but he puts out Hillbilly and a couple others. So yeah,
Well, when he feels
IDW
like
puts
it.
out a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
And the
Yeah, IDW
Yeah.
has
Yeah.
famous monsters or had famous
Yeah,
monsters.
Action Lab. I mean, there's a lot of companies out there other than Image and Dark Horse.
Tron and Quarterly.
Can I be
Yeah, Drone,
the
sure.
minority for a second and say Milestone Comics? 'Cause
Yeah.
I've been wanting to bring them up forever.
Yeah, Milestone.
And the fact that Milestone was like one of the first companies to actually start promoting.
I'm sorry, but when you sit here in this room and say, "Did you?" Yeah, I
Yes,
didn't be the minority for a second. I was like, "You're gonna be the minority the whole time."
But like actively and openly,
Did you hear?
Black
like,
Panther in 3 weeks, and you don't know how excited I am. A movie about Africa with no slaves. Whoa! Fire!
So do we have to have one of us sitting here going, "Damn it, we're coming out."
Freaking dark kid.
When you said that, I'm like, somebody's gonna.
Yeah.
George is gonna.
I just couldn't. I just
George
couldn't
is
keep
gonna
it. I couldn't keep my mouth.
George, you didn't disappoint me. Let's put it that way.
Well, go ahead, Austin.
I calls them like I hear
Thank you.
them.
Oh, God.
Go ahead.
You know, this is for all the harassment. Characters like Icon and Static, who are now parts of the DC universe,
Yeah.
of an established DC universe. Even inspiration for characters like Black Lightning, who now has his own TV show and is everywhere, came from the fact that Milestone was promoting minority characters, and not just Black, but Hispanic, Native American, Latino, Middle Eastern, whoever, Asian. And now what we see that's so common, like for instance, the fact that the Incredible Hulk is an Asian kid. Without an inspiration like Milestone and what they were able to do, that just wouldn't be something that we might even still see today.
Right.
And they have had, like I said, some very successful characters. Static Shock is like one of the most requested characters to show up in DC Comics ever. And if it weren't for the licensing issue of them having to constantly pay royalties to Image and the fact that he can't sell his own standalone book
Right.
for whatever reason, you throw him in a Titans book and it sells more than it's ever sold. You put him in his own individual book, nobody buys it. So I just think that they're often overshadowed and overlooked and forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a lot with brand new characters. That's why you don't really see a whole lot of like new characters really take off anymore. It's a lot of and a part of that also comes from the fan base who constantly they get upset that if things stay the same, but then they get upset if you change anything too. And
Yeah. Well, it's like kind of like TV shows now too, because I know I was watching a documentary about Cheers, and they were saying if Cheers had come on in 2010, it would have been canceled after 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Because you have to give stuff a chance to develop and become something. A perfect example is like Image will have a book that'll come out, and it's a brand new ongoing series. They had this book that came out called Violence, and it was awesome. I mean, I was on board with it, reading it every month, and after 5 issues, they canceled it. I was like, this is great, but maybe the sales weren't there yet. In 1990, they cranked out 18 issues of Wonder Man. It's like, that book should have been canceled. Like, I should have bought the first issue, and about 10 pages in, they should have just been blank. Except they would have said, I'm sorry, on each page. Like, I want
This isn't going to
yeah, an apology from the writer and artist whoever.
Stop! Wait,
This
no
ain't gonna
more.
work.
You want that dollar and a quarterback, George?
You know what? I have a box over there. Somebody owes me about
Yeah.
$800
Yeah.
worth of
A
Wonder
picture
Man.
of a guy handing money back to you.
Yeah.
Should have been coupon in the back, redeemable for
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well,
here's your
you could split hairs on this
In
company. but
shackles.
Vertigo.
Vertigo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, where DC encouraged people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously darker. Sandman, Swamp Thing,
Swamp
that
Thing.
was Hellblazer was more of a darker side, but they encouraged, people to do something different. That's not
Yeah.
mainstream.
Well,
Yeah,
more
fair.
and more of an adult theme stuff too.
100 bullets and
Hellblazers.
You can't
So
forget
Transmetropolitan.
you can't forget the home of the Chromium cover.
Yeah, that book is jumping like crazy.
Can't
too.
forget
Wild
Valiant.
Buzz
Valiant.
of
Yeah. You know.
Swamp Thing 25 and
Turok.
37. Constantine.
I'll tell
Those
you
things
one
really
for
brought
me.
it.
Constantine's taking
You
all the
brought my
photos
attention to it. I
Caliber.
started looking at it. It's like,
The
Caliber.
film,
Caliber the
TV
Crow.
show,
Yeah.
I mean, that's where it's at for me.
Justice League Dark.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And still to this day, as you can see, there's a whole lot of companies out there putting comic books out, and it's encouraged, which is really cool.
Yeah.
You don't have to go with Marvel or DC anymore and stuff. You can just put your own stuff out.
I know.
They only sell 3,000 copies, but you have Diamond, you have a 600-page catalog, and it's out there.
Yeah,
That's
well,
pretty cool.
and it used to be that you'd have like Marvel and DC, and they were taking up 95% of the marketplace, and everybody else was trying
They
to
still
fight
do.
for that.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
They still do.
the thing is, I think it's a little closer though. I'm not going to say it's thirds, but when you take Image and Dark Horse and IDW and then all the indies, those do take a major
third.
portion of what's being sold every month. I mean, you look at the top 100, and I mean, they're not. I don't have the exact number, but they're not. They're by far. They're far from being just DC and Marvel.
right.
You know. So.
Yeah, which is great.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
And for all you readers out there, I don't understand why certain books that I like don't even get on the top 100. And I see Marvel just about every one of their titles, and they're like, man, this stuff is just crap.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's
Yeah.
I mean, honest.
and it's something that sucks. I was talking to my dad about this the other day, and that is, at the end of the day, the culture is geared towards those with a disposable income, by and large. The movies are made for kids, teens.
Hey.
The TV's made for them. Music that's on the air is made for them because they're the ones with a disposable income. At the end of the day, the culture is just not directed towards us. I mean, you guys more than me, and but. For the most part, that's just not directed towards us, and you can tell by the top 10 on the Billboard charts for music, the top 10 comic books being sold, the top 10 TV shows. I mean, you can tell by all that it's not geared towards us.
Well, I mean, Corman put out the Shadows, the
Thanks.
8-issue series.
I'm feeling pretty good today.
Never made the top 100.
Way to go.
But yeah, we have characters out here
Bring
like
it down.
Iron Man and Flash still putting out books.
Yeah.
And that was a question I was going to bring up, I think, last week. Is there characters out there that you cannot believe there's not a classic story? You know, with Batman, you have unbelievable amounts. Superman, Spider-Man, you have these. Oh man, you got to read this. If you were going to give a,
Yeah.
trade
Several
paperback to
of
somebody,
them, different
to somebody,
storylines.
I mean, the Hulk. I mean, there's
Yeah.
all kind of Planet Hulk. There's
Planet
all
Hulk,
kind
there's
of
all
great
kinds
stuff.
of-
But yet, there's characters out there like Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reading comic books for about 75 years. I've never wanted to read an Aquaman, but no one's ever come to me and said, Kramer, you're missing the boat on
You gotta
this."
read
You
Here
blew
it
it.
is.
You should
Here
read
it
Tell
this.
you what, the guy
Yeah.
that's doing
Did
the
you-
art now on it
Did
is
you
pretty good.
Did you read when
I
he killed Black
understand,
Manta's dad?
Huh?
Did you read the one where he killed Black Manta's dad?
No.
That's actually the only Aquaman story that's worth reading.
See,
That's
no, what
I'm
I want to
saying.
say
These
is,
characters have been around for 50, 60,
Yeah,
70
and they
years.
don't
what
have
you need to do is you need to watch
identity
Justice
themselves.
League because the Aquaman in that was great.
Fantastic. Hey, listen, what a film. First and foremost, you don't know it's.
But all of that, I mean, it's amazing some of these characters. Even Iron Man, people love the movies. You guys do movies all the time. The movies are spectacular. But Iron Man, comic book,
Oh, I know.
who reads that? Who's ever read
Who's
that?
ever- who's
as
ever
a
read
retailer, I can tell you, no one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's crazy.
There's
These
a lot of my
characters
cats
keep coming
getting
around, but
this.
they're in the top 100. And you have a lot of these books that we speak of independent, and they're nowhere in the top 100.
Categories.
Yeah.
That's like after the Suicide Squad movie when Harley Quinn's popularity blew up, and I'm like, I don't know why, because I can't think of one single moment where I've been like, oh wow, I got to read that Harley
Gotta
Quinn
have that.
comic. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah,
Individual.
she's in the new White Knight, which is really good.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure which Harley.
Well, the cartoon character is
Yeah,
what
'cause
I think
there's,
people
yeah,
latched
two
onto.
of
I
them.
don't,
Yeah.
I don't ever think a comic story.
No, it's
of Harley
absolutely.
Quinn. Yeah,
That's,
it was the
that's
cartoon.
what got her going.
Yeah. Well, even
Yeah.
in Suicide Squad, Harley Quinn was really just there to sell merchandise.
Yeah.
Well, the comic book was
Well,
selling big when the movie
not
was
if the
about to
director's
hit.
cut.
Then the movie hit, and people were still on board with it.
Not always.
But I think the movie version of her is really what spawned all the series and then the Suicide Squad book. But it has been on a decline. I mean, I could set my watch to the decline of people buying Suicide Squad and Harley Quinn, but then they're going to come out with, they're called Gotham City Sirens, and it's
Yeah.
Batgirl, Catwoman, and Harley Quinn, like what is a live action
Yeah,
movie.
Yeah.
I mean, that might be cool. I'd give
If
it
they,
a shot.
but if they do Harley the right way, so the sustainability factor too, like to answer both questions about Harley Quinn and the each character having their own genuine story. If they're not telling compelling stories, like Iron Man is a character that's just overpowered as hell. He has all this technology, he's gonna blow everything up. So I need to see something that actually puts him in a position where he is like fallible.
Yeah.
where he is.
Well,
very
there was
close
it was,
to
it
being-
was
Yeah, in
when,
the
he,
80s.
when he struggled with
Without
alcoholism.
alcoholism.
That's the last time the story was even
but see,
interesting.
that's what I was
for
about to
him.
get at.
Yeah.
Because we've talked about that before too, like drug use and stuff like
Yeah.
that in comics. It's oftentimes the stories where the characters who are so fantastic seem so broken and purely human that connect the absolute most. Like Batman: The Killing Joke, where he's finally pushed to like that full limit. Like we're talking about iconic stories. Or
Absolutely.
when Speedy's found out to be a heroin addict, or when this and that happens. Harley Quinn's interesting because of the Stockholm syndrome that she has with the Joker. Like
Right,
from a
yeah.
story of abuse, if they would tell that, it would market and sell forever. Because you have a whole demographic of women and other readers that specifically have dealt with abuse in their life, and that could stick towards them.
Yeah, and it might stop all the little girls from dressing up like her and trying to.
Yeah, nobody wants to dress up
Yeah.
like the girl who wears
Yeah.
face makeup because she has a black eye,
Yeah,
not
right?
because she wants to be a
Yeah.
clown.
Exactly.
Right. And my
And that's
cats
mixed.
my cats are meowing in agreement, just so you know, they're on your side. Or, you know, like you said about that being fascinating when these larger than life characters get brought down. How about in Superman 3 with Richard Pryor, whenever Christopher Reeve was drunk and then yelling at those kids at the bar? Do you remember that? And he fights himself in the junk. Anyway,
Wait a minute, no, look out.
There's a Superman movie.
oh,
Just kidding.
Because
Is
I
it a
am,
Superman comic book?
because I am
who's
quest for
Superman?
peace.
Yeah.
Trying to get as much
Ever.
fun and happiness and goodwill as we can out of the way right now.
At my
Oh
expense.
god!
The next
Before,
question.
before we got to bring it down.
Yeah.
Well, I have something. I was in the attic last night digging up some stuff.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you know it's a family
Oh.
show, right?
I see a banana.
Actually, he's going to eat that banana on screen here.
Oh my
I got a
god.
little something for you to
Slowly.
put up by your cash
Oh,
register.
Uh-oh.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's what I'm talking about.
That's good stuff.
And
What I'm going to do
after-
though is I'm going to mark that up and put your cell phone. That way.
After this episode,
Oh, it got the toss.
after this episode's over,
God,
I'm going to
good
erase
times.
everybody's memory. Okay? Nobody
You're
will
gonna
know
do
anything
what?
about this.
What is that? Yeah, what does that extend?
You guys remember the Men in Black?
You don't know where that
Men
thing's
in Black.
been.
Men in Black.
Well, it's got a little bit rubbed off on it there.
Whoa! Whoa!
That's what she
Wow,
said.
that family show just went right out the throat.
She said that you would say that.
Bazinga.
Got something on it.
Oh,
Probably
it's
some
just a
good.
piece of lint.
Little
Comes with complimentary rubber gloves.
Let's say Burger King or
Yeah, this
McDonald's.
is the Burger King one. That you're giving out the Happy Meal.
I'm not even listening to you.
What? I'm not. I'm just sitting here.
Okay, and you know,
can't look at you.
Austin's the only one that knows this.
I can't look at you.
I'm the king of all bread bags at work. I take my lunch in
Oh,
a
I-
bread bag.
I know that.
You know that?
I've been there.
Back in the 70s,
That's Sunbeam.
Is it double? Is it
Sunbeam bread.
egg pen?
What?
DC stickers.
Yeah.
I got the
Oh,
whole
look.
set.
Yeah.
Oh, leave slides down.
That's
Oh,
awesome.
that's from.
It needs a little
Adjustable length.
Yeah, it used to actually light up.
Yeah, it used to actually flash.
Are those
works.
cards
Oh,
or
wow.
stickers?
They're stickers.
Dude, Burger King used to have the best tools.
And how old were you?
What's on the back there? Does it have a date on it there? 78?
78.
I was 9.
Man, well, kudos to you for having the wherewithal and willpower to not
Oh,
peel those
oh,
off.
it killed, it killed me. It killed me to not use them.
That's awesome. Though.
Yeah.
There's a double. You could use that one.
Yeah, there we go.
What are they? I can't see. I can't
Stickers,
see.
DC stickers. Pass them around.
Pass them around the group.
Did you bring it up for the class?
I did.
Oh.
In reality, the blood goes back.
Thank you very much.
That's
cool.
Stop
It's
yelling.
even in a vintage
Old
bag
Mr.
check
Old Mr.
envelope for my
Mitchell
parents. Just a little trip down memory lane.
All right,
Well-
you ready for the gauntlet?
Yeah, we're sitting down, and you won't see me get up because I have a bit of a limp after the battle royale that just took place in the store before we kicked this thing off. In all seriousness, one of the questions we were asked,
Paragon, sir.
Oh, yeah.
the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends cartoon from 1984-85, with a specific consideration for Firestar. Did we like that show? And I'm here to say, I did. I loved it. I lived for it.
I've reflected on my comment a little bit because I don't like Marvel cartoons at all, but I thought about what you had said and I reflected on it a little bit. I think at the time the difference, I think really for Gary and myself, that is that we were already in our 20s and I saw things like that. I mean, I didn't get to appreciate it as a kid. I did.
I know. Here's what's funny though is we're gonna have a big battle royal, and that was gonna be the point that brought us back together.
Way to ruin it, Walls.
Well, see, I was going to try to solve all this trauma that was
In our pre-production.
But
days.
no,
Click.
No, it's all good.
But no, I saw it as an
Gary's
adult.
not going to agree with that. He's going to be like, no, it was stupid. Doesn't matter how old you are.
I saw it as an
Make your
adult. I mean, I didn't get to
resolution.
experience it as a kid. I just didn't, I didn't.
Well, and we can still argue because you guys didn't like the '90s one. I mean, I was engaged when I was
loved the
watching
90s
the Spider-Man of the '90s, and
Yeah.
I love that cartoon.
Yeah.
Maximum Carnage when it went week to week, that was awesome.
Yeah.
The Spider Killers, dude. Like, everything about that show was rad.
Yeah, dude.
It managed to take the Clone Saga from the comics, which wasn't popular, and make it cool.
Ben Reilly and
Yeah,
all those.
yeah.
And then
That-
Spider-Man moved over to the X-Men comic. I mean, the X-Men cartoon for
Yeah.
a few weeks when he had the Man Spider, and it was like.
Hey, I was totally on board.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of this.
But even better
I
than
mean,
that.
none of it.
Let me tell you, even
None
better
of
than
it.
that.
Well, you
was
didn't hear me chiming in.
Rapid
I'm like,
80s
oh,
animation with Iceman and Firestar
Yeah.
and Spider-Man. The best three characters to ever be put on a cartoon show together. Let me tell you.
I you know what? Here's the thing: is I'm
Oh,
going
the X-Men cartoon. Oh, wow. That's,
Yeah.
Wow, what an awful.
What?
Awful.
Oh,
awful.
see-
That is the worst cartoon I've ever seen in my life.
Well, it's okay. We all have
Now,
flaws.
season 5 was bad when they shipped it all over to Korea to be done and animated and all that. But season 1, I remember the
that-
debut episode coming on at
Oh,
8
yeah.
o'clock p.m.
The mu- I'll tell you, the music-
on
Jubilee in the
Fox.
arcade. Come
Yes.
on, dude, I'm there.
If I heard the music to the X-Men, the when I was like, oh man, I look for
I
a brick
can't- I
to
can't
throw
do
through
that.
the TV.
I
Get that far. I can't watch the opening song.
saw snippets, and I see snippets of cartoons, and I feel the same way about the movies. It could be good, it could be great, and it's a great vehicle for keeping it out there in the public, which is what I see the movies and the cartoons as.
Yeah.
But yeah, the animation in just about every superhero. I watched Clean Hulk,
Cliched
which
voice
wasn't
Wolverine,
bad,
like,
but I
it's
mean,
like
the
shock.
animation is so terrible. I mean, just so
Awful.
terrible.
There
The
was
way
a-
they walk, the way they talk, everything. And that X-Men with the shading and stuff, I remember looking at it, was
Awful.
They did have a pretty bad color palette in that
oh,
show.
guys, you
That
have
was
to
90s.
understand.
That was 90s.
We're here surrounded by great art, and then I watch a cartoon, and this stuff is like amateur hour. I mean, just about every cartoon. Like I said, you want to put some cartoons on, put some Looney Tunes on. Now that's cartoons.
There you go.
Well, once again, I think we've discussed this. DC cartoon and animation wise, I've always liked
Dude,
all of
they
it.
destroy.
Teen Titans, the Batman animated series, Justice League. I've
Justice.
really enjoyed all those.
But unfortunately, stuff like I said, we're grown men. That stuff doesn't appeal to me at all. I mean,
Well, I thought the
not at all.
storylines were much more.
It's
Sure,
it's
they were, yeah,
it's
I
written
agree.
for an 8 to 10-year-old kid. Batman, all of it. Batman
the
Beyond. I
animated
don't like
series,
any of it.
No, the animated
Yeah.
series was definitely
I don't
for
think so.
adults.
In
I
fact,
don't like
they even
any of
changed
it.
the time frame when they were showing it. They used to show it like after school time.
Yeah, and then they started doing it in the
changed
evenings and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
it's-
but the presentation of the animation itself looks like it's done for an 8-year-old kid.
I think with
I mean,
I can't relate
we-
to it. I'm
I
sorry.
thought it had a
I can't
classic
relate to
style
it.
we can
I
talk.
liked it.
We can. I'll take that point on a number of shows, but the original Batman the animated series.
Yep.
I mean, that was it. They were drawing it on. They were doing whites and colors on black paper, and I mean, there was a lot of stuff there that was really, really like a pioneering thing. And I mean, it was. I thought it was very adult.
I
They
thought it
didn't
was
cuss in it,
fantastic.
but
I still think it's
there was
fantastic.
times where I thought
I
that
own it all
show
on DVD.
that show should have been TVMA at times.
Where
There
Joker,
was-
Joker backhanded Harley Quinn and threw her out of a window. And
Yeah.
it literally shows no remorse and turns right back to Batman. It's like, and back to you. And I was like,
yeah.
in my
Oh,
adult
that was-
ages, I was like, holy
And the
crap,
one
how
where-
they go
Yeah,
over
but
my
that
head.
to me, I've seen that a trillion times in the movies and comic books and everything else. It's not.
But it was the
shocking
first
to me.
time that it happened, and that's what I'm saying.
But I
And
understand.
that's
But here I am, a 40, 50-year-old man. That it doesn't appeal
At
to
this
me.
point, I understand.
I can't speak of a 8-year-old kid seeing this for the first time, which would be shocking. Which is the same as any horror film that I've ever seen that I still watch. Like I said, I know Walls and I are big fans of the original Universal Monsters. We used to watch it on a thing called Creature Feature on Channel 2.
Oh yeah, Captain
Yeah,
20.
yeah, Count Gordy Ball.
Count Gord Duvall.
Right, so I still hold it. I understand what you guys are talking about, but I can't speak as a comic book fan of stuff that I see in my 40s and sit there and go, "That's the coolest thing ever," because it's
Well,
not.
I see that, but I'm not
not
I'm not
nostalgic
making the same
at all.
argument for Batman the Animated Series that I was making with Spider-Man's Amazing Friends. Spider-Man, I mean, it's kind of silly and lame, and you can tell it's a cash grab, and they're appealing to 8-year-olds. I was an 8-year-old when I watched it, so it holds some nostalgia for me now. Like that's where that
And I
is.
respect that and understand that.
Batman the Animated Series, I was engaged when I was watching
Yes,
that show.
me too,
And
and I was
that
an
show,
adult.
that's an adult show.
Yeah,
Like
I
that's
was
not
almost 30.
forget about what an 8-year-old's going to think when they see it. I don't think an 8-year-old should watch the first season of Batman. It was, I mean, remember that episode?
They changed the time when they showed it. Yeah.
Where all the villains were sitting around
Yeah.
playing cards
Yeah.
and talking about how they almost killed Batman and almost got him and stuff. That's
When
cool.
Clayface couldn't hold his image, that like it was like
Yeah.
all those screens behind it. It was like
It's
a
kinda
little kid.
creepy and-
sort of creepy and scary for a little kid. I thought.
I thought
I enjoyed
for
the
a little
bit.
kid, exactly.
But
But that's
no,
what they're saying,
no,
is it
I
wasn't-
thought it
it
was
wasn't
too.
scared by
geared
Batman.
towards
I thought it was a little too creepy for a
It's-
little kid.
No. Not
So-
for a little kid, exactly.
but
But,
so it-
if we got a bunch of adults here,
But are you?
man, that's what we're talking
What I'm
about.
saying though is the Batman animated series was for adults. That the first season of that show was an adult show.
I agree.
Like Spawn on HBO, that
Yes.
was an adult show.
Yes.
And I'll tell you now, I think that the Batman animated series show was miles better in quality and content
Yeah,
than the Spawn
and
cartoon.
again,
Yeah.
and again, the Spawn was crap.
Oh, I don't
too.
think there was anything better than the Batman animated
Hey,
series as
here-
far as
here's one.
current animation goes.
Here's one of the originals, Heavy Metal movie.
Yes.
Man,
How about the real?
You have
original?
Oh, I'll toss you out
exactly,
here.
exactly. But I mean, you had
Just
4 or
kidding.
5
Not.
incredible. You had Corbin
Yeah.
and all these characters, and then you bring them to life and they look awkward.
Yeah. It did. It was.
well, what?
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, guys. There's nothing here. There's unbelievable amount of incredible art here. And when they animate it, they have to cut corners. And to me, it's less.
Well,
do
and
they
it
have
was-
to cut corners?
I think that's
I
true
thought that movie-
99% of the
You're watching
time, but Batman the animated series didn't cut
And
corners.
not just
That
the
was-
Batman
I-
animated
I-
series, but with more recent things, like they, for instance,
I agree.
and I know I bring it up all the time, but they just animated The Killing Joke.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
panel for panel, frame for frame, the animation holds up to the book. And it's, I wouldn't say revamped to make it look better.
I
at
can't
current.
imagine it holding up to Brian Bowles.
I'm
Yeah.
telling you,
It looks
absolutely
beautiful.
does.
Yeah, I'd
Like,
have to
page
see
for
that.
page. I promise. I will get it. I will get it.
I'm
for
on
you
his
guys.
side on
Watch
that
it.
one.
And-
I,
mean,
met,
the mo-
I met the man.
And
As
they've
far,
had
as
a
far as
few.
the movie itself, the right, like that first like half of the movie, just
Yeah.
skip it. That
Yeah.
subplot with
Yeah.
Batgirl, skip it.
They do- but they
but
do
the
that to
artwork
establish-
is like perfect.
And they do that just to establish Batgirl because for people that have
Make her a
not read
damsel
it,
in distress.
they want you to know when Joker does take her down, like how terrible of a thing that is. But
Oh,
it
yeah,
gets
because him
real
just
dense
shooting
real
somebody
Oh
fast.
yeah, if I handed just somebody on the street the Killing Joke, they're like, this woman got shot. Who is it? You know what I
Yes.
mean? I mean,
Right.
and that's sometimes whenever you hand somebody a book or anything, they don't have to know the background to be able to enjoy it.
Right.
So the significance of her getting shot by the Joker is big in the Batman world.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you hand it to her, it's like hand it to anybody. It's like, who is this person?
And another
I have
big
no idea who
another
this
big one we
person
talk about with Batman all the time is Dark Knight Returns,
Mm-hmm.
and which is a fantastic book.
Right.
Artwork is great,
Yeah,
for the
I
time.
know.
but when they
A lot of
updated it
people
and
on
did the
Frank Miller's
animation,
camp.
when they
Took
did
me a
the
while.
animation, it absolutely fits well. It can tell the adult story that's
Mm-hmm.
there, and the animation holds up to something that I'd expect to see on the big screen, as far as an animated movie.
Well, I guess that's the difference. I mean, you guys, and I'm a movie. For everything that I say against movies, it's just not necessary. But I love movies. I do watch as many as I possibly can. It's just not essential for me to run out and see the new Star Wars the first day.
Yeah.
It's just if I see it 6 months from now, that's
Or 6 years.
that's yeah 6 yeah. I mean that's cool with me. I don't have to see the Marvel things to enjoy comic books, and I've said that a million times.
How
But
about
my point being is the movies with the CGI. I mean, it's just incredible what they do on screen.
Mm-hmm.
They take what is in the comic book and take it to the next level, and I will give movies that. Cartoons, not so much.
Well, okay. So the point that Gary made is like you like movies, but you don't have to run out there and see it. Raise your hand if you feel like when a Marvel movie or Star Wars or something, a genre movie comes out, you want to see it the first week it comes out. Who's in the? Okay.
Yeah,
I
I'm
do. I just never do.
Okay. How many people
I saw
want to and
Jumanji.
follow through? Okay. So, Jumanji, I thought was great. I really
It was.
enjoyed
Yeah,
that.
it
movie.
wasn't that good?
Yeah, and I didn't
Oh,
like
it
the
was.
first
It was
one, to be
fun.
honest with you, but I thought it was
Fun.
really fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess my question is, do you guys find that with there being 3 and 4 and 5 and 800 movies every year coming out like that? I mean, you got Thor and Spider-Man Homecoming and Logan and Star Wars, and you run down that whole list of movies that are coming out almost every month. Do you guys feel any level of what I would call anticipation fatigue? Like, do you find, like, I don't know, like, I can't wait to see Infinity War, but I don't know that I'm as jacked to see that movie now as I was to see Force Awakens 2 years ago.
Here's my
Yeah.
theory. Here's my theory.
I don't know.
When they first started happening, and like Iron Man, and when it first started rolling around, and you were hearing about the next movie, for me it was very exciting. But now I'm to the point where it's like they're making these movies. I'm convinced now. You know, because I used
Yeah.
to think in the back of my mind, this is not going to last. You know, this can't. I like this too much. It's not going to last.
Yeah.
It's just my. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. That's the way I'm geared.
No,
it's
I
something
agree.
that it's something that I like. It's not going to stay.
Yeah.
And now I'm to the point where I'm like, no, this is a reality. They're coming out. The stories are good. They are very good. And I haven't really been let down by any of them.
Yeah, me
Totally
neither.
let down. There's some I like better than others.
Right.
But I haven't been let down, and they're very good. And the stories are getting better, and the movies are getting better.
Much better.
I think they're getting
Yeah,
better.
I agree.
So I'm like going. I'm not as much. I'm sort of
It's
like. I
not
don't know
like
if it's
Christmas
a-
Eve, but
yeah,
it's still
not.
pretty cool.
It's cool, but it's not.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that they're here to stay. So to
And,
speak.
well, and I think it's because we're almost spoiled. Like,
Yes.
instead of sitting going, oh, I can't wait
Yeah.
to see if they pull this off. Now it's like, okay, how much longer are we wait before
Yeah, I
the
mean,
Infinity War? What the
how
hell?
long
What's
does
the
it
hold
take?
up here? What the
You
hell?
said you said I'm waiting for the second part already.
Yeah.
So speaking of spoiled, Star Wars, right there.
Yeah.
Donnie, I challenge you. When you review a movie of Star Wars, because I'm sure you're a big fan. You guys are all big fans, right?
Yep.
You cannot. Here's Gary's rules. You cannot speak of other Star Wars films when you review it. You cannot refer to it and put it in order. It's number 8. It's number 2. It's this. It's not as good because everybody. There again, we're going nostalgic. Is The Empire Strikes Back or Revenge of the Jedi? Are they as good as people remember them being? I'm sure you guys have watched them again. But next time you watch a Star Wars, because people have such anticipation with what we're talking about, of the new Star Wars, that they put it way up here. And when it's not way up here, even if it's just down here a little bit, then they start tearing it apart. And I've sat back and watched Star Wars fans.
Oh,
I know
yeah.
a lot of them. I know a lot of them that really, really are critical of this thing, and it's like, can you review this just as a film and say, no, this is really good.
And that's what I
This
tried
is
to
this
do.
is better than everything else
Yeah.
that's out there. That's sci-fi. That's
It goes to the
Star
point you
Wars.
just made. It's like
you
people
know,
are mad if you give them the same rehash, and they're mad if you deviate.
And it's with, because I saw Last Jedi opening night, and then I reviewed it and put the video up the same night.
Mhm.
And I tried to do that go in with the unbiased opinion. How is this movie as just a movie?
Yeah, pretend I never saw a Star Wars film, and you're going to review it for me.
Yeah.
What do you got for me? Well, you know, what,
It's
should
a
I
very-
see this or not?
Yeah, I
Should I
mean,
spend $15?
I think so, because that was a point I made in my review of it. YouTube channel Don John, by the way.
Bingo.
Plug.
Hashtag
I actually made
shameless
that point that
self-promotion.
I feel like you could watch it without having watched the previous Star Wars movie and still be okay, because it doesn't rely heavily on the things that came before it.
Right.
There's moments where it gives a love letter to that stuff,
Sure.
but it doesn't rely on it. And if anything, the love letter is in a sense of saying goodbye
Yeah.
to it, because at some point, and this is the thing that Star Wars fans that are tearing apart don't want to admit, eventually Star Wars has to break away from the original trilogy.
Sure.
Kicking and screaming if need be, because
Right.
eventually it needs to look to the future, not the past.
Right,
And I,
because
and I
there's-
think that movie did
Good
this in a
point.
very
Right.
wonderful way.
Yeah.
Somebody stumbles upon your website and says, "What's this Star Wars? I hear so much about it." And then you review the new thing and you panic. You just lost a Star Wars fan.
Right.
They really don't need a whole lot more
Right.
fans. They have plenty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're doing all right. You know, but that's what I'm trying to say.
Their
I
universe
wish I
will
could
not be
personally pick
suffering
off
too much.
a half dozen or so.
Because I mean, that was one thing I loved about The Last Jedi, was looking at it, I'm like, you could never watch the Star Wars movie in your life,
Mhm.
still go into this movie and just love it.
Yeah, I
Well,
agree.
and to piggyback off that thought,
Well, that's
like,
good.
I think it's important to, when we talk about, like, viewing movies and how we critique them, and also as far as the nostalgia versus, like, the anticipation fatigue, seeing it as a separate entity than as part of the series. Like, when Doctor Strange came out, it was absolutely Christmas Day for me,
Mhm.
because it was going to be something unique and different that
Mhm.
Marvel had not done
Yeah,
yet.
yeah.
That nobody had done yet.
But also it stands
Amen.
alone. But also it stands alone by itself. Like,
Right.
you did not have to see any other Marvel
Nope.
film.
Right.
There are plenty of Easter eggs in there, but you never had to see another Marvel film for you to appreciate it as both a film and as a Marvel movie.
And
It's
they,
same
and
thing
they,
Marvel
and they
puzzle.
dealt with
Yeah,
Doctor
same as Spider-Man
Strange's
Homecoming.
history incredibly well.
Very
Because
well.
I am a collector. I have a lot of those. early
Dude, and
Strange
even like
tales.
with the Dickus
If
stuff,
not most of them.
when he's floating through the first time when the Ancient One throws him through, like, there is so much good stuff in there for new fans. Because as a visual experience, especially in 3D, that
I
was
can't-
astounding.
I
Well,
could,
the Guardians are the same way. Deadpool, you're sitting there going, time out. This, how they pull this off, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How did I get caught so surprised by this? Because this is incredible stuff.
Yeah.
And being a comic book fan and knowing who Star-Lord is and Drax,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh my God. I remember having that feeling, reading about it, going, are you? No.
They're
No.
not
Well,
making
and
that
you said
movie.
That, there's no way. And probably Guardians, the first one's probably one of my favorite.
When you said Deadpool, I was like, oh, they're putting Colossus in. That's going to suck. He's just going to be really strong. but they used him in such a way where I was like, Colossus is a great character to have in movies now.
Yeah. Well, they find a way to make those movies and fit into the Marvel puzzle, but make them more than just a puzzle piece.
So as far as the
You know?
anticipation fatigue, I personally don't get it because, yes, it's not a surprise now. I know that the Marvel machine is going to keep running for the next 30 years.
Well, it's become a genre like a Western or
Yeah.
a crime noir film. Like, it's superhero is a genre.
But I'll tell you what
it's going to
happens.
exist forever, I think.
They drop a
I didn't
teaser.
even know anticipation fatigue was a thing. I'm all tired just thinking about it.
Jeez, yeah. They drop a teaser, and then
Is that a
you have
thing?
my
I'm
interest for
thinking
like
about
5
it
later.
minutes,
Is that a thing?
and then after the teaser drops, then they put out a full trailer. And every trailer since Captain America 2, every single trailer has done something within the 2 minutes of the trailer to grip me. That's making me go, I have to go see that movie on day one. Like when you see the helicarriers falling from the sky in the trailer, it's like,
Yeah.
what causes that? I have to go.
Yeah.
Or this moment or that moment, or even just something so simple, because this is one of the simplest ones they've shown. Street lands back in a pounce.
crazy.
I was like,
Yeah.
I need to see that action sequence just to see how he ends up in that stance, because superhero landings are cool.
Yeah.
If you look here, you'll see me throwing money at the TV screen.
Yeah, and so like I don't get fatigued, because as long as they introduce brand new ideas, if it's not like I got fatigued with some of the other companies doing it. When I found out that Fantastic Four, I was like, oh, this is gonna be dreadful. And it's a brand new cast, and it's still gonna be dreadful. A new Spider-Man movie with Andrew Garfield, and they're gonna introduce too many characters all at one time.
Yeah.
It's gonna be dreadful.
Well, it's like, let's plant all these seeds so that we can make 18, movies later. And it's like, no, that's kind of was one of the many problems with the Batman versus Superman. It's like, let's plant a million seeds that don't really matter so that we can make a bunch of movies later. Yeah.
You're right.
One fight at a time, I guess.
But Iron Man, when Iron Man came out, they had a plan in place for new movies, and I went back and watched the original Iron Man the other day, and you can watch that as a standalone film.
Yeah.
And they knew that there were sequels coming in other movies, and it does not matter by
We didn't
itself.
know
It
that,
stands
though.
alone.
Which
I mean,
is cool.
we had no clue.
As
That's
you,
what I'm
as you guys
saying.
were talking,
Right.
we didn't know.
We
that
didn't
stuff,
know.
so.
Well, they knew, but we didn't.
And it's fantastic as a film. It still holds up 10 years later with all the new advances in CGI and stuff, because it was at its core Iron Man.
What
Good
do you
story.
guys-
It was a good story too.
What do
Very
you
good
guys
story.
think about and I'm going to ask Tim because I've forgotten what his voice sounds like because he hasn't piped into that.
Well, we've been
Yeah.
having our own little conversation.
Yeah, our sidebar.
Laughing
A
and
little
Aside, an
side
aside,
saddle
an
gimmick.
aside.
I think it's
Do you
the
guys
best
think
fight.
that the Disney Fox thing? Do you think that was something that the Disney Fox deal? Do you
Yes.
guys think that was something that they've known about a lot longer? Because it
Oh, yeah.
seems to me, seems to me real serendipitous that they're getting ready to close on the big payoff, the big climax of the Marvel Cinematic Universe with Thanos, and they're going to be getting ready to start over. Right at about the time they also have the rights to the X-Men and the FF and all that stuff.
It is kind of convenient.
Yeah, it's more than convenient,
Yeah.
but they're kind of bringing it to a close, and this is a plan that they laid in place almost a decade ago. And do you think it's just a lucky break? We're going to end all our stuff right about the time we're getting all these new characters, and right about the time Hugh Jackman isn't
set of
Wolverine
stories.
anymore.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Brian Singer's the one that
Yeah.
gave it away, if nothing
Yeah,
else.
moment of
I mean,
silence.
I wouldn't go as far as
Poor
to say
old
that
Tim.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that they knew about it from the second they started making the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
But they've definitely known about it for at least I'd say 2 years, maybe 3. That that deal's been in the works for a while,
Yeah.
a lot longer than what we've known.
I think when Brian Singer announced that the Wolverine movies were going to be a trilogy, is kind of when it gave it away, because Hugh Jackman's a cash cow as Wolverine. I mean, he just is. He is Wolverine.
Yeah.
So when you go, okay, well, we're going to make these and this, and Logan's going to be our last one, and everyone started speculating what the storyline would be like, and then they start telling you, especially once the movie came out and you realize that that's it for Logan, and that they did it in such a beautiful way, it was like, oh, that's mighty convenient that you killed off the one thing that makes you the most money.
A few years back, my wife's like, "Hey, let's go to the movies." I was like, "Well, what's planned?" She goes, "Hugh Jackman has a new movie out." I was like, "All right, I'll go see a Hugh Jackman movie."
Hugh
But I don't even know what it
Jackman.
is. Yeah, we get there and I'm waiting for the fight to start and literally we're walking in and I'm like, "What is this?" She goes, "Oh, Les Miserables." I'm like,
Yes, I am.
and I don't know if you guys have seen that movie or seen Les Miserables on any level, but every single word of it is sang in not any type of.
How faithful is it to the comic?
Yeah, I mean, it's bad, and every word of it is, I guess you could say sung, but there's no rhythm. I don't know what to say. There's no melody to it. It's just everything they say is I have to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. And I'm leaning over my wife going, "This is so horrible. I wish I were dead." And yeah, it was.
I'm waiting for the animated version to come out.
Yeah.
I wanted to interject some animation into this the conversation earlier.
Mhm.
What about these Superman original Flesher
Session.
stuff?
Done
That's
pretty well.
pretty amazing for that time frame.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know?
Dark,
Yeah.
very dark.
I mean, I
That's why I
enjoy-
like it.
I enjoy
Well,
it.
I wouldn't pan all
Yeah.
cartoons.
You're
I'm
talking
not,
the
I'm
way
not-
back.
Yeah, like
oh
the
yeah, they're
40s.
cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
neat because well, they're historic.
Right.
But they're cool. They're dark and they're
And of course, it's the Canadian one's the one where the theme song came from, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Spider-Man. yeah, yeah. I mean that's
Spider-Man
nostalgic
does.
for us guys.
Yeah.
But I gotta admit, it's not the greatest animation.
Well, yeah,
towards
and that's where I'm at.
That's sort of psychedelic.
We were gone for hours. We were gone for hours.
We actually had to pause that because things got a little filthy. I don't want to name any names, Tim Lees, but a few people had some things that were really off color to say. I think the fact you're making eye contact with the camera while you unpeel that banana, it's a thing.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
How about the someone asked us about the 9/11 comics,
Yeah.
which is cool. What was the Heroes for Hope, which is
Yeah.
cool with the X-Men from back
Yes.
in the 80s.
Yeah.
I think it's great. Anytime being in a local band that we put on many benefits and stuff, and I think it's always
Amen.
wonderful when you use your any kind of talent that you have.
Yeah, for real.
To
Yes.
raise money for,
Yes.
and it gets a chance a lot of times, like on the Heroes for Hope and the 9/11 stuff. Alex Ross doing the great covers. I think it's wonderful because a lot of the big cats come out. And you get a chance to see the top creators and stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a
Yeah,
great
at
point.
the top of their game. Good stuff.
Yeah, I know with Marvel, what I dug was like Joe Quesada. I guess he was there and saw from New York. He could see the
Sure.
towers fall,
Right.
and he said that it was really important to him to not make a comic book where the characters come in and try to save the day, like keep it from happening. Or
Right.
it's like this already happened, and it showed Spider-Man kind of witnessing it, and then guys like Spider-Man and Captain America and Iron Man down there helping firefighters,
Yes.
like dig through everything, and it was just very human kind of way to take it. I
A
thought
great
that stuff was
approach.
great.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, it's also difficult bringing comic book characters into the real world where things are real. We're
Yeah.
talking the Killing Joke, we're talking all kind of stories and stuff. And yeah, the death of Phoenix or any of these characters and stuff, and it's just comic books. But real life, that's tough to bring the characters in because they could have stopped those planes, and Superman could have said, "Go away." You know what I mean?
Right.
He could have held it.
That's what
the
that's-
buildings up. I mean, like I said, a superhero. So to intercede them with, it's pretty difficult to do. and do it
On the
tastefully.
other side of that, though, that's what I always enjoyed about the Swamp Things, the Saga of Swamp Thing series. It was dealt with a lot of things that were relevant in what was going on in the world at that time.
Mhm.
Also telling the story of the Swamp Thing,
Yeah.
and how it was interconnected in that. That's what I always found was pretty interesting. That worked for me. It worked. It was very relevant to things that were happening. Or taking place at that time. So.
We had a guy online that asked us to come up with more crap like that weird online toaster. That I think weren't you the one that pointed that out?
Yeah, I sent the toaster.
I didn't notice on the group chat who it was that did the Batman squirt gun.
That was me.
that you?
Yeah, that was Donnie because I thought it was pretty cool. Actually.
I found the one where Spider-Man's sitting in a tape rolling dispenser, and he's like sitting like he's in a Lamaze class. And the tape roller's right here, and he's like kind of holding on to it. Like, what's happening?
Yeah,
here?
yeah. Who greenlights that as a production thing? That's a great idea.
I'd like to think
that Batman where he's sort
Yeah.
of bent over and stuff.
And the
You're
plug- and the
you're like
plug is on
squeezing
his
his crotch,
butt.
and you're sitting there.
Yeah, and he's shooting. That.
I saw that. I'm like, I like to think somebody in the design room was sitting there just in the back of the room,
Oh, yeah.
just
You know,
They bought it. Yeah, they
Yeah.
bought it.
I was,
Yeah.
well, I was listening to a
Check it out.
podcast, and they were
Squeeze
talking.
wiener.
Bruce Pritchard, who's a guy that was like Vince McMahon's right hand man for close to 20 years, and he was in those meetings. He said when the Attitude Era hit in pro wrestling, which was that big boom in the mid to late 90s, when it was NWO and Stone Cold Steve Austin, all that stuff, they were getting pitched every single day by companies wanting to get the licensure. So they would go into a meeting and sit down, and over the course of 2 hours, maybe hear from 40 different people pitching something. And he's like, we were slapping on everything because once we gave them the right to do it, they just handed us a check. We weren't waiting for royalties, like buy the item. We were just, it's like, okay, hand us that check for 10 grand. Go and make your, Stone Cold Steve Austin tape dispensers or your cups at or whatever. And he's like, you'd be shocked how many times we would hear, it's this, but it could deviate from this by whatever, 20% either way. And it's like all of a sudden, your pair of Undertaker scissors becomes an Undertaker Bowie knife because they both cut stuff, and you're like, what's happening here? And that's how they end up with all these goofy, crazy things.
Yeah.
Stone Cold condoms.
Nice.
That was a thing.
Yeah, it actually was, yeah.
Has anybody had the pleasure of visiting Japan?
No.
Yeah. Would like to.
There was a flight that we had to go on with some protected cargo from Andrews to Japan. And when we got there, and we're actually out in Japan, one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life is that they have interactive urinals.
Mhm.
That the more you pee into it, it plays games and it does other stuff, and they even have ones that like have people's faces, like characters' faces in the urinal. And you're gonna laugh, and I'm telling you, it's getting there.
So much wrong.
There's one where the more you pee, the faster Aquaman swims.
That's great.
It's quite literally
He's swimming away from you.
one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
I must-
because I like wanted
must
to go
outrun
consume
this
gallons of water to come back and just see how fast I can get him to go.
Aquaman is outrunning your urine.
Oh, dude, it's fantastic. And like they're like little interactive games. Like these two characters will fight each other, like Optimus and Megatron. If you pee on the left, Megatron hits Optimus. If you pee on the right, Optimus hits Megatron. It's just like who?
How much?
That's what I
How
call it.
long do they
Wow,
think people are
Megatron.
spending at the
And that
urinals?
was my thing. And I was also like, you know what? Just like you said about the production meeting. And what meeting were they at? Where they're like, yeah, we'll sign off on this.
Great idea.
Aquaman urinal.
They have to have gotten to the point then where there's a Ghostbusters version and they're crossing the streams. Has that happened yet?
Not that I know, but I guarantee you it's there. Japan is wild.
When I shared the picture of the Batman squirt gun, I should have sent you what I was gonna send instead. It was a Punisher action figure from like a couple years ago.
I had
You see- where he's got the missile on the crotch.
Yeah.
And he's just standing there like this.
Is
You
it
guys
red?
remember seeing that?
It's
thing
red.
from
Is it a
Toy
red
Biz?
rocket?
It's a red
Yeah,
rocket,
yeah.
and you squeeze his legs and it launches.
I bought that figure, and that's like mid to late '90s. From
Yeah.
Toy Biz. I bought that figure at Big Lots for like $3 or $4, and I sold it. I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago on eBay. I sold it for like $60. Yeah.
Somebody really likes Punisher.
That's
Yeah.
important.
That's what we're gonna
Punishment.
say.
I'm like, I saw that. I was like, this was done on purpose.
Don't tell them it was me.
Austin bought it.
So, have you seen any weird things besides the toaster? I mean, once you go down that rabbit hole, sometimes.
No, I haven't really been doing any digging, but
What's
the
the
urinal
biggest
thing
range?
kind of blows everything out of the water.
Yeah.
But
You can't
it-
top the urinal story.
Like that
I'm
Simpsons
finding
when
a
Homer walks
video.
in and the toilet says, "We are honored to accept your waste."
I mean, we have our own
That's-
interactive urinals around here. You know, it's
I believe
called,
it.
It's called pee the cigarette butt down the hole.
Yeah.
Bust up the urinal cake.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of ghetto fabulous,
Wow.
Ghetto fabulous.
Ghetto Fabulous Productions.
GFP.
Yeah.
Oh
We'll
boy.
get t-shirts made.
Yep.
Well, do you guys think that sometimes in comic books they put stuff out intentionally just to get it pulled off the shelf? Remember when the Jewish was it Kite or what was it in the Wolverine there a couple years ago, 10 years ago?
Oh yeah.
It was put out
I do
there,
remember that.
and someone put a slant, a racist statement or
Just to get
terminology
it to
in there
fly
and
off.
stuff, and it's like, guys, come on, how many people read this?
Yeah.
Someone wrote it, someone lettered it,
Yeah.
someone was an editor, and someone printed it, and no one saw this, and then
Yeah.
it comes out, and all of a sudden they're pulling it off the shelf. Do you guys think that's?
I think that maybe somebody in that lineup, like somebody that made up the ingredients of that book, but as a publisher, I don't think any publicly traded company is going to say, "Hey, this is a good idea." Like it happened with that X-Men issue, X-Men Gold #1,
Yep.
where
Yeah.
the artist was putting some anti-Semitic stuff in the background, or it had it was something to do with like pro Middle Eastern
Anti-Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was some stuff like, and it was like I went through the book knowing it was there, trying to find it, and it was still kind of a chore. It was like in the background, like very subtle. You really had to be looking for it. To the point, I'm not making an excuse for it, but I think that it's fair to say that could have slid by 6 or 7 sets of eyes, because unless you know it's there and your job is to, unless you don't trust any of your people and that you're always looking for them to try to pull one over on you, I don't think you would have noticed that. That said, the artist whose name escapes me, he got fired.
Yeah.
And Marvel had to issue an apology. They tried to pull all the books back in, and they sold for. I had 7 of them, I think, and they sold for big money.
I remember there was a Doctor Strange
For
that
not
had
big money.
Amy Grant.
Oh, yeah, on the
Picture
cover.
of Amy Grant on the back cover, and I don't even know how
Was on
that
the cover?
happened. Yeah, well, no, I'm sorry, it was on the. That's right, it was on the cover.
Amy Grant?
I don't- yeah, Amy Grant on the
It's on the
Doctor
cover.
Strange. I don't even know. I guess what happened was they didn't get any kind of authorization to do that, and there was a lot of trouble with I can't even understand what their thinking was to put a picture of Amy Grant on the back, like
It's her fa-
her
no, it's her
face,
face.
her
It's
face
real
on the
big.
cover, with the
Yeah.
with the, whatever
Well
the
done
character was
cover.
in the front. I'm like, why? I don't. What was going on there? You know,
Yeah.
it became somewhat controversial. I'm like,
Yeah, like I said, and the same with movies whenever you guys, you know, you have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people, and these movies come out, and you're like, that's terrible. I mean, you guys know it from the very beginning. This is a terrible movie.
Suicide Squad.
Yeah, but it said, how many
Agreed.
people saw that,
Triggered.
wrote it,
What's that?
filmed it, acted in it? How many people saw it, edited it,
Yeah.
and then sit there and go, yeah, this is good, put it out?
Well, I think that you're too far down the rabbit hole. I think a movie can be bad and everybody's watching. I don't think they're all under this hypnosis like, this is great, let's put it out.
Yeah.
I think it's like, well, we just invested $40 million or $100 million in this movie. It has to go out. Let's polish this turd up as best we can.
Turning back
well,
now.
the first 10 minutes or so of the movie,
I loved
I
it.
was sort of
Suicide
I was
Squad.
into.
Yeah,
It was
like
fun.
the first like half hour, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is okay.
yeah, and then yeah, exactly. Then it went.
Like I can say, if I may, just make the comparison. When we run like a wrestling show, if we're running a particularly big wrestling show, you might have 35 or 40 men and women on the show. You got another 10 or 15 running sound and lights and the referees and the support staff, and then you have the ring crew, and then you have the sponsors, and then you have the people running the lights for the venue. Like at the end of the day, I've run shows where it required 75 hands to make it work, and despite 3 months of best intentions of laying out the stories,
You
and
only
all
have
this-
so much control.
well, you put it out there, and then I go back and watch it, and I'm like, God, man, what were we thinking here?
And that's
here?
why director's cuts are a thing.
Well, and that's what I was saying. But
yeah.
also, so using your wrestling analogy, in WWE they have signs and cues that they give them. You know, if they're going to
Yeah.
alter it during the match, even if they alter who's going to win, like with the whole Daniel Bryan fiasco and how he ended up becoming a thing.
Right.
So you say you like the first 10 minutes of Suicide Squad. A lot of these, especially when we're talking comic book movies and genre films. So the Fantastic Four that just came out, the last one, Suicide Squad, Batman vs Superman, Justice League. How much of that has to do with I hire a director, very much like if I had a book and I hire an artist and a writer, and I want them to give their vision, but then because it's conflicting with what I want the character to do, I go and try to make all these cuts.
Well,
So
studio
and I guess
yes.
that's my point. Is like, despite the best intentions, we got 75 people working on one project, one creative endeavor. It's going to have mixed results from time to time. So when you take, Suicide Squad probably had, I don't know, 2,000 names in that credits at least.
Yeah.
They got 2,000 people all contributing, and then you maybe have 10 of them that have a legit, the legit ability to interfere with how this plays out. Like,
What?
Legitability.
legit.
I like that.
The legit. I meant that to be
New
two
word.
words. Legit as in
No,
legit
no,
ability.
I-
I didn't mean that to sound like a one
That's
word.
Coin it,
Whoa.
coin it right now.
I love that.
Captain Legitability.
I like it.
Like, oh,
His sidekick
hey, tell me there's toilet paper in there. I got legitability, and it's really bad. I took some Repressitol, and
Smoking daylight.
I'm just saying. Just saying. Hey, look.
Folding chips.
You know, I'm offended that you guys
Olestra.
don't take my legitibility position serious.
Legitibility,
Okay.
Captain Olestra.
We will take your legitibility legitimately.
Legitibility,
With his
okay?
sidekick.
I'm sorry.
Lester chip.
Lester chips. Wasn't those the chips that said on the side?
Yeah.
There was a
May cause anal leakage.
may cause anal leakage. I remember that chip coming out, and my dad walking in with a bag of chips to the kitchen. It's like 7:30 in the morning. He walks in and he just looks at us and goes, "Who the hell bought these?" Went, "No, I don't know. Probably Mom." He went, "Did you read the pack?" I went, "I don't know that anybody reads the pack. If you're buying potato chips, I think the ship's already sailed on your concern for like health and nutrition." He says, "It says right here, may cause an oily anal discharge, a sudden urgency to have it, and an inability to control it. How did this get to the market?"
Hey, it must have been a damn good chip.
Well, the funny thing is, the bag that I bought was already open, and somebody had taped it down with a Spider-Man tape dispenser. So they're all in cahoots. Is all I'm saying.
Speaking of decisions, do I eat these on the toilet or not?
I mean, it And it kind of serves as one of those horse waste bags when you're done. I don't know.
For those
Anyway.
mornings, where you really don't want to go to work.
I call those days weekdays. But, yeah. Anyway, getting a little out of hand here. We're actually coming up on the closing.
Talking about going down the rabbit hole.
I tell you what, an hour plus flew by this week. You look off in the some hole.
We didn't talk about new books today.
We didn't.
Sorry to bring it down.
Ah, boy. Okay, let's
Back
go
to
ahead and
that
get those.
Books. Who
Back
makes
to that
those?
comic thing.
Did any of you guys get a chance to read the Marvel 2-in-1 number 2 yet?
That was where I was going.
Yeah. Go right ahead,
Awesome.
Tim.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
It was great. Monster Island. I mean, you can't beat that.
Cover.
Yeah, the cover.
Yeah.
The Kirby cover.
I like the little backstory too.
Yeah,
That was cool.
it was great. I liked it. The art's great. I mean, if they keep on that, I'll keep buying it.
Yeah.
Anybody read Rogue and Gambit?
I started to, and somebody bought my last one. That's like the story of my life.
It's pretty good.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's good so far.
Spider-Man, Deadpool. They're in
Oh,
the
yeah, you
old
said-
folks' home.
Yeah.
Really, the story is sort of, has been done before, but I thought it was sort of neat.
That's cool.
Yeah,
Thor.
yeah. Thor's been great.
Oh, man.
Yep, Thor's good.
Nailing it.
Thanos. Did you hear the heat for that?
Uh-uh.
Number 15, the newest one.
Uh-uh.
The Cosmic Ghost Rider. Okay, I didn't know if that was a thing. The only Thanos books I bought were like the first 4 or 5 when Deodato was doing them.
Uh-huh.
And I saw, like one of those clickbait things, the top 10 comics to buy this week. And Thanos 15 was number 1. I'm like, oh, I wonder why. And it has Hulk chained up. The Hulk's got the long hair and he's holding him like by a
Yeah.
chain like stuff. And there's this Ghost Rider behind him. Like, that doesn't look like the Ghost Rider I know. Johnny Blaze or whatever. And I got to reading about it, and it just gives you like little hints. It doesn't tell you about it online. You got to buy it. So of course there's one book left, and I got it the other day, but you weren't here. We didn't get to talk about it.
Yeah.
And the Cosmic Ghost Rider, spoiler alert, is Frank Castle.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's interesting.
yeah.
That is interesting.
It makes me want to buy the next issue.
It makes me want to pull the issues I have on the wall.
They aren't
And
there.
stash them somewhere.
Yeah, it's just neat, and the art is pretty easy on the eyes. So I'm like, you know what? I'll
I
pick
like
this up. I'll
the,
pick up the next
the
one.
Thanos book, when Deodato left it, it was picked up by, and I don't know his name, and I should, but the guy that was doing the new Darth Vader, or the old Darth Vader series.
Yeah.
Which, 1 to 25, it was only a 25 issue run. Did
Yeah.
you read it?
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
And it looked like, there were some scenes where it almost looked like they took a picture of the movie and then put the characters in there. I mean,
Like
it's
the
so
Darth
realistic.
Vader comics are really good at making like the few good parts of the prequel movies stand out.
Yeah, picking and choosing. And,
Yeah.
Yeah, so everybody's like they're on board with like the first appearance of this Cosmic Ghost Rider was Thanos 13 is what they're saying, but I mean obviously I don't have that one, but you want to technically go back to go Spidey 129,
Yeah.
it was just neat. It's just like where'd that even come from?
Yeah. Oh, that is
So,
cool.
Yeah, everybody go rush out and get that now.
Yeah.
Right here.
Jack the
Absolutely.
price up.
Well, before we peace out for the week, did anybody else have anything they wanted to chime in with or mention?
Oh, next week, question. Now, I'm not talking about trade paperbacks. I'm talking about graphic novels, standalone graphic novels. Top 5. I want you to think about that. We don't have to do it now,
All right.
but top 5 graphic novels.
Okay.
And I saw a thread on the
Not trade paperbacks. right?
not
No.
trade paper, not collected volumes of stuff.
Not like a series,
Original-
just like
original,
little
Original,
standalone.
like, hey, I want you to draw me a story. It's not going to be put in any
And it doesn't have
kind of
to be
sequential
from-
art. I want it to be
Right.
Doesn't have to be from one of the big guns, right?
right. It can be anything.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I've got mine.
Take a
anything.
guess. How many? You guys good next week?
Okay.
I work next week.
Oh, Donnie won't be here.
Off. I'm off.
Okay,
I'll be
you're here.
Yeah,
All
I'll be
right.
here.
Well, then there'll be 5 of us here. How many graphic novels do you think there'll be total in the list? I mean, how much crossover do you think there'll be? Like, if there's 5 of us, I don't think there's going to be 25 titles. I think my guess is there's going to be about 10.
I think there might be more than
Yeah, there might be more. Might surprise you.
All right, we'll see. I guess we'll see.
Right? I'll bring the Alestra chips.
I did like the one.
And a 5-gallon bucket.
And 3 of the empty bags from previous Aleister Chips outings you may have taken.
I did like the question that people apparently enjoy Austin and I. That
Yeah.
was nice to hear, especially since I got top billing.
Sorry, dude.
So they'd be the
Maybe-
minority in the group again.
I'm thinking that banana's going to put you over the top.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I can't
Banana.
compete with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was neck. Yeah.
Tim and I were talking about how everybody has their place here in the show. No, oh god, okay, that sounds terrible. But like how everybody comes from a different
What's your
perspective.
place?
You know, like the artist, the shop owner,
The fan.
the super fan, the
historian.
the historian, right? Then you got the movie guy. I was like, I'm just the Deadpool. Like I'm just there to shake it up.
Yeah.
I like it.
We can do that. It's either going to be that or banana guy.
Yeah. And since my
What is
face
it?
obviously doesn't get me top billing, I'll just wear the Deadpool hat.
We're gonna go ahead and do a poll on this because we'll have this episode posted. This episode will actually go up tomorrow, Sunday at 12 noon. So you can tune in Sunday and watch. Between now and Thursday,
They don't
on
know
our-
that, you know that.
Yeah.
You're telling them it's going to be posted
They
tomorrow.
don't know that.
Yeah, I guess not.
Good night,
Just in case
future
you're listening.
boy.
This is post. This is posted right now.
George right there.
You won't know it, but by the time you see it, then you'll know.
This is
That's fair.
live from the.
I'll make a
Softball Heroes.
post saying, "Hey guys, it's going to be uploaded at noon." But when you watch this, what we want you to do is it's Twitter. Our Twitter is Call All Heroes. Send us a message of what you would like to see Austin eat next week.
More laughter. We need
By
more laughter.
Thursday, let us know what it is, and we'll pick whatever it is. Whoever picks the winning item, we'll get Austin.
We're
On a meager
looking
budget.
to-
We'll provide it for Austin.
We're
No
looking to
chips.
increase the legitimacy
No
of the
chips.
show.
Yeah, the legitibility.
Well,
Legitibility.
the diets are preferably
You know,
couscous.
I need to stop and get some Robitussin because my legitability's been acting up.
Yeah.
And the prescription expired. They're doing this whole thing with healthcare, and I don't want to. Legitability's not covered under my current plan. Is I guess what I'm.
Can
trying
we
to
get him
say.
a bag of
My
those chips?
prescriptions is expired on my glasses.
Legitibility is it a pre-existing
There it
condition
goes.
or not?
Legitability. I don't know.
Many new words today. Fatigue,
It is.
legitability, anticipation, fatigue.
Fatigue. Guess what? That's not a new word for me.
Anticipation,
Fatigue.
fatigue.
I learned it when I was 12.
The combo word.
I've been hearing this really cool and all show.
I was like, no, I'm sorry. I told my mom, I was like, could you just bring breakfast in here? I'm playing NFL Sports Talk Football at Sega Genesis, and I have too much fatigue
And
to,
it's legitibility.
to muster enough legitibility to go out there and get my own food. But anyway, anything else anybody else wanted to mention before we get
good.
out of here?
We're good.
You're like, for the love of God, please end this.
Mom, in case you see this podcast, I'm sorry for how sultry that banana really was. I know you're going to be disappointed.
Oh.
Somewhere right now,
apologies.
yeah, when your mom watches that, she'll be like, I didn't even think about that until you pointed it out.
Right?
All right, on that note, I'm George.
Gary.
Tim?
Austin.
Donnie.
Walls.
And we will see you guys next week. Thank you. Yeah.